This business was not going to fail. It was not an option. We took out so many personal loans. I quit my 9-to-5. You work side jobs. So many different things that happened during this transition of how we started our business. People think it's so glamorous, right?
Yeah. But I want to start with the actual story of like how we started the business, which I think is not the norm, which is you worked for a spa out here in Arizona. We were fresh out here. We didn't know a soul. When we moved to Arizona,
didn't even know that we were going to start our own business.
It was not a plan to start a business still. And you worked for a med spa and you were unhappy. Like, I mean, we can start there. We can go into all the nitty gritty of what we did to actually get to this point. I mean, not that we're necessarily thriving right now, but
I felt like people were just a number.
Yeah. At the med spa.
And it drove me crazy.
Yeah.
The industry is so big out here.
Yeah.
I want to be a change.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that was a big...
I want to be happy.
But what's crazy is that when you started at that med spa, we still weren't like, let's open up a business here.
I was so happy.
We had
about it. A 401k, health insurance.
Yeah, paid time off.
Well, we didn't have it yet. We had to work for it. But.
Yeah. Yeah. So what got you to a point to make you want to leave that business? And then where in your brain did you go, let's start a business?
To be honest, I felt like a robot.
Yeah.
I didn't feel happy. I felt like the people that I was surrounded by were not people that I could see myself being with every single day. That was so hard about being surrounded by people who were so focused on the company's goals, and that's great, but it was treating everybody like a number.
Sales oriented.
Yeah. And I hated it. I felt like I couldn't even blossom into my own provider. And they wanted everybody to be the same. Yeah,
which is, we got very, I mean, I was going to say we're lucky, but we worked hard to get there. Which was cool is that when you were doing that and you started going a little bit crazy, we started growing the Instagram a lot. And just for anybody, some backstory is that Victoria's been the breadwinner of the house. She's the one who's worked. I stayed home with at the time, just one kid. Now we have two. I've been a stay-at-home dad. I do marketing on the side. I do consulting. I do photo and video. So I have some incomes here and there, but primarily the bills get paid when Victoria works. So when Victoria got to a point...
Don't give me all the credit.
Yeah, you are. But when
we're
you
a team.
Yeah, we are a team. But you were the one going into the med spa 40 hours a week to make sure the bills were paid. So when you got to the point to go, I'm unhappy, Chris, like I'm going crazy, that was the point that we were like, maybe it's time to open up our own business. Like maybe this is the place to do it. Some more backstory. We had no money. There was no money.
No money.
We didn't have cash. We moved back from Florida to California, back to Arizona. So we wiped all of our savings. We had credit card debt already. So when you were like, Chris,
there was a point where we couldn't even pay our rent.
Yeah. Multiple times.
We're still paying off that credit card.
Yeah. But yeah, so when you got to that point of like, I'm really unhappy, we were also growing the Instagram and started bringing in some brand deals. And you started doing some like UGC, like content for other brands as well, because we built this brand and because we built this content so well. So the plan initially was, hey, you can quit that job. Let's focus on Instagram exclusively to make money, to pay rent.
I was doing anything that I could to make money. You were doing Shipped, which is a grocery delivery service. Yeah. I even got on Billo, which is a UGC creator platform where you get paid nothing. But at one point I did so many that I made $500. Yep. There was so much work.
We call it scrambling and scraping is what we were doing.
Definitely.
And at the time, we didn't plan on opening up the business. So it wasn't like let's just save enough money to open up the business. And I don't know if you remember the timeline exactly where we were like, what if we opened up our own studio?
I specifically remember we did not think that. So basically, we weren't even thinking about opening up our own studio. It was basically brand deals, us going on Instagram, making money, getting monetized through Instagram. We had this dream fantasy of we're going to create a living through Instagram. Mm-hmm. So that was our biggest thing. And then it was not until we were going through that process, then our really good friend Lex visited us in Arizona. And we just had an idea. What if we opened up our own space? And
You
we
started
were
looking into some, I think you started looking into some studios.
Yeah, we were looking into studios. We had a lot of imposter syndrome of this isn't going to work. What if it doesn't? And our good friend Lux actually motivated us a lot. I would say that he was one of the biggest inspirations of us touring a spot and him saying, you can make this happen.
Yeah, which was scary because it was expensive. I know everywhere else has different prices, but
Can you imagine going into a business and paying $1,200 a month?
Yeah, with no clients.
What really pushed us was that we got a month free, and we were so set on, okay, this month is grind mode or nothing. That's when we go back into this business is all or nothing.
Yeah, when we started the business, we didn't have the first month's rent because we had to pay our apartment rent. So the only option was to get clients.
Logical, quote unquote, logical versus people who maybe saved up their money and all these things. It really isn't luck. It's a lot of hard work and dedication. And it doesn't work out this way for everybody. I'm not trying to advocate for people not having a plan.
I mean, anybody who ever asks us what we think they should do, I don't recommend what we did for most people because one, I don't know most people. I don't know how everybody is. I don't know what their drivers are, what their work
everybody
ethics
has different drives. Everybody has a special talent. Everybody has things that they thrive in, things that they don't. So we don't know your own situation to this, but it worked for us.
Some people are willing to do what it takes, and some people are not. And some people don't want to be pushed in that corner. Like, I can't tell you how many times in the first 6 months of business where we didn't have rent until the 31st. And I don't recommend that for most people. And maybe people would judge us for that. But it was like, we just did what it took. We couldn't even
get a personal loan big enough to where we could go a whole year without paying the bills.
There was no loans. The credit wasn't good enough. So it was really
we still can't get one.
It was just scrambling and scraping.
Maybe we can now, but
probably can now. But it was just scraping together whatever it took. So if it took me going and delivering some groceries, if it took Victoria on Billo, if it took me, there's a website called Fiverr where you can hire freelancers to do photo and video.
If you want us to make a video of all the random gigs that Chris did during that time frame,
there's a lot of
pretty hilarious.
Christmas ornaments. There's Halloween decorations. There's a lot of weird stuff that we did because we did whatever it would take to keep the business open. People would think we're so
weird. Yeah, but that's what makes you exactly. I mean, not everybody has to do the weird things that we did,
and I don't necessarily recommend it for most people. I don't recommend the stress for everybody because it was a lot to figure out and deal with.
Definitely. It was a lot of stress, but I do think that if you guys have any questions, please message us because everybody's situation is so different. We can definitely give logical advice on things that make sense.
Because
based on your situation.
Because we've been there before now.
And we can relate to what it's like of being scared to jump into something that you may not know the answers to.
But circling back to the idea of like there was no other options, a lot of, we spent way too much time comparing ourselves to other business owners, other estheticians. And, we've been in places where I stay home with the kids. And like I mentioned before, Victoria being the breadwinner, when we opened our own business and there wasn't clients, what do we do? Like I stay home with the kids. If I start picking up work, it takes away the potential in the days that you're open to take clients. And what could I do for work that paid the same that you can get paid? You can get paid 10 times as much as I can for less work. There was no other option for us. And I tell that to people all the time where they just go like, what do I do? What's your advice? And it's like, sometimes I do feel like the best way to treat it is that there's no other options. And that's how we treated it. When we woke up and rent was due in 12 days, we worked our butt off because there was no other options.
There was a point where we would ship with our 6-year-old,
six at the time,
5 or 6-year-old
6, yeah,
son,
all
and
three of us.
We made it such an adventure. It was so funny.
And yeah, I'm sure he'll just think like that's normal, but like we were literally doing whatever. Like we're waking up. It's like, okay, Victoria has no clients today. Me and Victoria are up at 7 o'clock in the morning, refreshing the Ship app to try to pick up. And then we're like, we get to Target. I picked up 4 different people, and we're
doing 4 orders in an hour.
It was stressful. Jace our son is shopping with us. He's just having the time of his life. He don't even care. They got free samples at Target.
Definitely. But I mean, like we wouldn't recommend that for everybody. We're just going really.
And don't tell Ship. I think it's illegal to take it with you.
We're going like way into depth of our situation, but I think it's really important. There's so much information and things that people don't know. I mean, people probably look at us, 56,000 followers on Instagram. They would have never known that we went through the struggles and that it takes so much work to get there. It's so much hard work. Even with the clientele now, and not only the Instagram followers, but the clientele you've built where you're treating 30, 40 people, 50 people a month. And in the beginning, there was I just told the story to my friend. There was literally weeks where we had 2 people on the books and they canceled, and we would go a week with no clients. And on that Friday, the rent was due to pay. We paid weekly at the studio. I was even pregnant at one point. I mean, at one point I was pregnant. I mean, there was a point where I had to go on maternity leave and we had to take out a loan to survive.
We took out a personal loan just to pay the bills for a month because there was there was a weird break. We had a couple brand deals in the break between
had
Victoria.
A baby when it was dead.
Yeah, and then also summer was not a popular time to get
building my
services.
clientele. Can you imagine? I think people don't realize that even a year in, I'm sorry, you are not fully booked. If you are...
That was another podcast episode.
I mean, maybe you are if you took clientele from wherever you were at, but from personal experience, from somebody who has professional gear, everything, you are not do not fall for people that say that they're fully booked.
And just remember what crazy. Fully booked means.
You could be booked one time a week and say you're fully booked.
If you are only open one day a week and you book 5 people that day because you're only open from 10 to 2, you are now fully booked. So let's remember that that's a marketing tactic. And I mean,
wait list, all the things, don't get sucked into it.
It's just like when you're buying things on Amazon and they say there's only 2 left, purchase now.
Okay, I've fallen victim to that.
There ain't only 2 left. There's a warehouse full. You think there's only 2 left?
They're laughing at you as they have the whole thing stocked up.
Let's remember the same marketing tactics we all fall for when shopping is what also, if you're an esthetician, you should also be doing it. You should do it too. Yeah. When we post that you're fully booked because we aren't open 7 days a week, clients notice. They book appointments. They pre-book. Close your schedule off so you can be pre-booked, but just don't fall for other estheticians and have this dream of like they're making $1 million a year.
I think number one, if you ask,
Jace is going to the bathroom.
I think number one, if you are going to look at an esthetician, number one, don't believe everything you see on the internet. Yeah. Number 2, do you know this person personally?
Yep.
Are you going to take the time to ask, hey, what did it take to get there? And they have the most basic answer ever.
Yeah.
I think it's like you don't know somebody. I think that's the biggest point to it, is that they're like somebody who's like basically putting on a fake scenario is not going to ever tell the truth unless you're authentic.
I think that there is a lot of value in doing that for your business. So I am very careful. The main thing that we want to speak on is not comparing yourselves to those people because they're using marketing tactics. I think you just have to know
that it's marketing tactics.
Yeah, exactly, because you can't just look at people and no, because I get what you're saying. Because
so many people were like, oh my gosh, they're fully booked. And I'm like, they're not.
It's
a marketing tactic.
And then you think you do exactly what they do and you follow the steps they follow. But it's like even with us.
But that's why we want to bring realness to this industry is because there's so much fake facade out there.
And even if you see what we do.
Was that the same thing?
And no, yeah, you got it. Yeah, you're good. But even if you see what we do, there's a lot of, you guys just are kid just came in here and went to the bathroom in the middle of the podcast. Like, this is the things,
We're not
these are the
gonna cut that
realness,
out.
these are the realness that we deal with. It's not glamorous. It's not always perfect.
Yeah.
It's not always a full clientele and everybody's booked out and everything's perfect and we're making $1 million a year. There's a lot of that struggle. There's a lot of credit cards. We didn't even touch on that yet, but I mean, you've touched on a little bit, but like the fact that, I mean, people say, don't take debt out. Don't go into business with debt. We couldn't get business loans. Who's going to give us a business loan? I did marketing and all the money I made was under the table. And you worked at a med spa making decent money, 40, 50,000 a year, but we weren't getting a small business loan. We're just
now in a place where we can look at our finances and now work on paying off that debt.
Yeah.
So
after 2 years of business and literally using credit cards to buy groceries sometimes.
Literally,
right?
I think it's really important to not compare yourself to other people, and then just realizing that if you come with a clientele from somewhere else, of course you're going to grow faster, in my opinion.
Yep.
If you are starting fresh on your own, I think it's really important to be realistic of what that looks like. It's going to take time. I would not recommend what we did because it's really hard.
Yeah.
I would probably suggest getting your experience, maybe getting clientele from somewhere else, to be honest. It's not for everyone. We're in a really unique situation. It doesn't always work out for everybody. So, I mean, we've had a lot of struggles, to say the least, right? But
and we've also, I mean, it's not that it's not for everyone, but if you're listening to this right now and you're saying, I will do whatever it takes, then do it.
Yeah.
Like, then go all in. And we didn't.
I think it takes a certain personality, right?
There was no backup plan for our business. The backup plan was to make the business work. That was the backup plan.
Once we went into it, there was no other way.
Because
that's why we went into so much debt to make this business succeed.
It was a year contract with the studio itself. And it was, we got to pay rent every single month. And the only way to pay rent was to get people in getting facials.
I don't think that there's a lot of truth to this industry, sadly.
Yeah.
So I'm really hoping that we can bring a realistic view to what it's like to open up your own business. And even as weird as the scenario is of us, I hope that I can really inspire somebody to take that first step. Maybe if you have the means to take a huge business loan out, that's great. You know, everything looks different for everybody. So is there anything else that you wanted to touch on?
I think you're completely right. I think that us really flipping the industry inside out and just showing that us becoming, or you becoming a bigger account in this space and what the truth is, and we're sick of hiding. We don't want to hide things. And I don't think Instagram and Instagram stories is the best way to like tell those things, because it's not going to reach the right amount of people. It's going to come off weird. And this is what this is supposed to be. We want every esthetician that's either just starting out or who's been in business for a while to look at Victoria and the accomplishments that we've made, because this is mind blowing. We have done 2 years in a row, 6 figures. We did 6 figures our first year. So it's not like we fell flat in our face. We did accomplish a lot of things, but there was a lot of crap that took us to get there. And it wasn't 6 figures meant that we were rich, right?
Yeah.
6 figures, we were spending 6 figures and making 6 figures. So the whole idea to talk about these things is just to really just show that it's not glamorous. It's not all pretty. It's not, everything's not perfect. And we are going to...
And this isn't to flex, by the way. No. I think that's something that I hate in this industry. Sorry, that's a really... I just don't like when people flex.
Yeah,
it just drives me crazy.
And that's why we don't talk about the numbers very much.
This is why this podcast is exclusive. So if you've made it this far, we appreciate you.
Yeah,
and
because
we want to be real.
Yeah, we want to show you the truth, want to show you the real numbers and the honesty and the things that it took to get there, and how much how much you have to spend to get to there. But yeah, and we'll continue to share things like brand deals and ambassadorships and all these things that we're doing to let people know the real honesty of what it takes to get there, and the struggles that we have to sacrifice to even do that. But yeah, I think that's
awesome. I so appreciate your input too. I think that we add a lot of value together as a team, but I hope that you guys found this episode really informational. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you have any questions, make sure you comment below, like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you next time.
I'm working late 'cause I'm a singer.